Good morning. I hope you guys are excited about coding. After the guest speaker is done, you're going to have an hour to code on your computer. But we thought it was really important, especially for high school students, as you are starting to face that fork in the road, trying to decide what you're going to be when you grow up. What are you going to go to college for? Are you going to go to college? What are you going to do when you become big boys and girls? That you understand the importance of coding. And you understand what coding is, and you understand what you could do with coding. So that's why we have our guest speaker today. His name is Mr. Owens. Anybody can ask him questions, so if you're in the classroom, feel free in the chat area to ask your question if you want to. Someone's monitoring those questions and we'll ask them for you. But I'm going to give you a little bit of information about Mr. Owens. Mr. Owens started coding when he was just 9 years old. 9 years old. I think that's amazing. He was in high school here in North Carolina, and then he applied to go to the School of Science and Math in Durham. He got accepted. He went there and graduated. He went to Chapel Hill. After Chapel Hill, he went to UNC Wilmington, where he majored in computer science, and he graduated in 1999. Right now, well, when he first started, Brad worked in Washington, D.C. for 6 years, developing legislative tracking web applications for a news organization. Pretty big deal. And then he now works in Charlotte for the past 13 years, building various cloud-based web platforms for a large financial service company. He is also currently working as an entrepreneur for a new software startup. Mr. Owens is going to talk to you about what coding is, how much money is available in this area. This is a really big opportunity for you guys. He does have 3 children here that go to UA, so some of you may know him. But make sure you make him feel welcomed. And without further ado, everyone please welcome Mr. Owens.
Thank you. And yeah, good morning. I'm usually just starting on my first or second coffee this early. So, okay, I'm going to jump right into the slide deck. I know it's time to get started. So, yeah, today's hour code, this is going on around the United States and around the world. There's all kinds of coding activities. Even at the local malls, the Apple Store has some coding activities going on all this week too, even today, actually this afternoon. So, all right, so let's just jump into a bit of some background. And so let's start with a little road trip. Yeah, 2 years ago, I took a trip to Vietnam and was trying to research some of the places where my dad was in the Army in 1970. So I, researched a little bit. Had some. Here's a photo of one of the Air Force, one of the bases he was stationed at in 1970. This photo is from 1968. So went on Google Maps and Google Earth. I was able to locate the same area as it is today, and so on the right side is the present day photo, and you can kind of see that the landscape kind of matches up, but you can on the Google Maps photo you can still see the remains of the runways that used to be there next to the main highway, which is QL1 heading south. So anyway, so this was kind of a cool kind of scavenger hunt. There's a photo of what the base looks like today. Now it's just a kind of an abandoned field. But the whole time I was on the trip, I was using.
Please, all intermediate spelling bee participants, please report to the future learning room at this time. Once again, all spelling bee participants, please report to the future learning room at this time.
Okay, so yeah, so I had an iPhone with me, and so when you travel, you can put in different SIM cards for different countries' carriers. So I was able to still use, Google Maps while I was riding. I rented a motorcycle, so I was just riding around solo. I was able to still, track my location. I was able to use some apps like Google Translate and stuff like that. So, whenever you travel, you can't learn every language. It's great to study languages, but I wasn't going to learn Vietnamese just for a short trip. So. Anyway, so here's a shot of me sending a text to my dad, my position, which was close to the town where he was stationed. It's a place called Quang Tri. So yeah, so anyway, this is kind of a cool thing. I was able to, kind of in some really remote areas, still have access to maps and GPS and texting and translation. So So it was kind of cool. Even though it was kind of in some remote places, I was still kind of connected. So I thought that was kind of a cool thing. So, all right, so fast forward to this year. I don't know if you guys were able to see Falcon Heavy. SpaceX launched in February. That was kind of cool. Elon Musk set off this enormous rocket with a really cool payload. Instead of kind of a boring block of concrete or something, he launched his own red Tesla car into outer space, which is now presently flying out near Mars. So some cool stuff in tech has happened this year. Just a few days ago, right, NASA landed another robot on Mars, the lander, which is about to start drilling into the surface of planet Mars to look for, actually to measure seismic activity. So there's a lot of cool tech stuff has happened lately. So what's the common thread through all these things? And that's going to be code, okay? So, you know, without software, none of these things are possible, right? So anyway, so let's jump into there's so many industries where you can use code. It's a really great skill set. So you don't have to just be a programmer to use it. But anyway, so for example, aerospace, today when you fly on a jet, like Boeing 737, it's totally a fly-by-wire jet. So that means that even though the pilots are, you know, the pilots are at the controls, they've got the yoke and the dials and everything, but everything they do actually tells the computer how to fly, how to change the flaps, how to change the, you know, angles, landing gear. Yeah. So yeah, so aerospace is really a cool example of really cool cutting edge code in place today, as well as SpaceX and NASA. Right, video games. I'm sure you guys are definitely playing something, right? This is Legend of Zelda: Breath of the Wild. Fortnite is super popular right now, I'm sure. My kids are always taking my computer over to play Minecraft. My kids are like first and second grade, so anyway, yeah, video games. That's a huge career path, and it's not just for like playing games all the time. You can run some amazing simulations, and you know, you can do a lot of cool things on the video game platform besides just, you know, play games and chase stuff and look for treasures. Okay, so that's a cool, really fast-growing career path. Okay, so right, financial tech. We're just down the road from Charlotte, so I've been working there for like 13 years now, doing various bank software. So there's tons of apps, there's tons of jobs in this sector. So you know, you may not think it's as exciting as building video games or something, but there's a lot of cool jobs in all different types of technologies. So banks sometimes have access to some really cutting edge tech as well. So automotive, okay, so I don't know if you guys have ever been by the Tesla dealer over on Independence. The place is packed full of cars now. So they're making a lot of really cool cars. The Model 3 just came out this year, and look, I mean, these cars are starting to have self-driving capability, which is kind of cool. And you know, let's let them work the kinks out first, though. I don't know if you want to get in a version 1.0 self-driving car just yet. But look, you guys are graduating like next year, or you know, you guys are class of 19, 20, 21. So yeah, in a few more years, when you guys are in college, I mean, somebody's going to jump in a car at some point and say, yeah, take me to the beach. And the car is going to start taking you to the beach, okay? So it's going to happen, you know, maybe 10 years, 15 years away till it's totally, you know, autonomous. But it's pretty cool, the things that are happening. So the cars on this slide are Tesla, and the one on the right is a BMW i8. That's currently in development, and Volkswagen is already committed heavily to electric vehicles, by the way, so they're also working on their own. So everybody's trying to kind of catch up to Tesla, actually, at this point. So, right, robotics and drones are a really cool field. Look, you guys are gonna at some point have robots in your household. It's inevitable, right? You may already have the little hockey puck vacuum cleaner thing, but they're going to get a lot more sophisticated. So at some point, you know, you're going to have a robot like folding your laundry, doing stuff, you know, so it's going to be, it's just a matter of time, right? Here's a couple other areas, right? Like medical research, climate science. This is also really important. I mean, the planet needs your help, right? Where you've got a problem with carbon footprint. The thermostat on planet Earth is steadily rising. So we need scientists and coders to help try to do modeling to try to estimate what are the best paths to try to correct our current climate change issues, okay? And then translate that into, facts for the world's leaders in politics. So a lot of stuff happening. Cybersecurity as well. So, all right, let's get into different types of apps, right? You guys are, of course, familiar with mobile apps. So, yeah, there's all kinds of different mobile apps. Now at your fingertips, your iPhone or Android phone is super powerful. Yeah, last week I was taking a e-scooter in town. The Lime Scooter app is pretty awesome. It shows you like where all the scooters are, what battery level each scooter is at. It's kind of cool. So Charlotte's got the Lime and the Bird scooters currently, so they're kind of popping up all over the place. Pretty awesome. Yeah, tons of apps out there. I just put a few up. There's all different categories, right? So some of these are kind of silly. Okay. Now, Flappy Bird, we're going to come back to in a moment, but so just if you guys get into coding, don't think that you can't develop a game, or maybe you think your idea is kind of silly or something, or it's not complex enough. Okay, Flappy Bird is a little bird that flaps around between some green pipes, okay? That little simple app brought in between $10 and $15 million, okay? So it kind of went so viral. The dude that programmed it took it off the market. He was getting inundated with requests to tweak it. And anyway, so this guy from Vietnam developed Flappy Bird in a very short time. So anyway, okay, web applications. That's kind of what I've been working on a lot the past years. If you are working in a large company, you're going to, web applications are primarily how big businesses get things done. So web applications, simply enough, you pull up in a web browser. You don't have to install any special software. I'm sure you guys have been to plenty of websites, but they just work, right? You pull them up in the web page. I listed a couple, and I'll demo a couple at the end. So, but yeah, like FlightAware is a really cool web app that shows you real-time positions of all commercial aircraft in flight, where they are. You can click on a jet plane, it'll show you what model plane it is. It'll show you a photo of that plane, that was taken. So, NASA Deep Space Network is really cool. It shows you in real time, which space probes are currently talking to Earth. So there's tons of cool web apps out there. So, anyway. Right, so device coding. Okay, this is growing, really. This is kind of a cool field. You're starting to see a lot of wearable tech, and like Nike came out with a shoe that had some chip in it, so it would help measure your number of steps per day. Now lately, that technology is in your phone, so it's constantly tracking your steps. But at the beginning of the year, all the staff went out to Topgolf. That was pretty cool. And so if you ever go to Topgolf, it's kind of like a cross between a driving range and a video game. But each golf ball has a tiny little rice-sized RFID chip in the ball. Basically, the system, the computer code knows, which player you are, what ball you just hit, what hole it went in, and it can give you a score based on that. So it's pretty cool. So there's tons of device coding out there, and any stores are using chips and tags in their packaging. Our new toll road just opened last week, and I've got a tag. I've got an RFID sticker on the windshield of my car now, so I drive on the toll road, Monroe Expressway, and I go under an RFID scanner. It debits my account for the toll. So. I mentioned Arduino and Little Bits. These are two really cool kits. Probably can't show everybody, but you guys in this room, like Little Bits is a really cool system where you can create a circuit just based on little parts that click together. They're all magnetic, right? So I can, I don't have to solder or do any cool stuff. I can just like attach things together and make all kinds of different devices. I can make remote controls for cars. I can, make little robots and control them. I can, this chip here in the middle actually is an Arduino chip that I can actually load code onto to do special, any kind of task, right? I can do anything that you can code. So anyway, right, so let's see. Yeah, drones and robotics, you already mentioned. So, okay, so IoT, you probably maybe heard this phrase, Internet of Things. So everyone is starting to hear phrases like, smart home and, you've got a smart thermostat, smart smoke alarm. At some point, all your devices in your house are going to start trying to connect to a network and talk to you. So there's a lot of companies trying to get in on this. You can notice if you go to Lowe's Hardware around here, you'll see a lot of smart tech starting to be sold. Refrigerators, it's starting to get nuts. People are developing devices to even measure your lawn water levels. I mean, at some point, your Christmas tree is going to send you a tweet. It's going to say, "Hey, man, you gonna water me or not? My needles are red here." So plants, it's getting pretty crazy. So if you look, here's a simple chart. It's showing by 2 more years about 50 billion devices connected to the network. So door locks, you've probably seen commercials for CPI security, or Amazon, for example, wants to be able to unlock the trunk of your car or unlock your front door to bring in a package. So anyway, so you have to be wary of these other companies trying to get into your smart home, and you have to decide for yourself what limitations you want to have there. So, okay, so programming languages. I'm sure you guys in a few minutes are going to start doing some coding exercises. So of course, there's tons of programming languages out there. So this, for example, is just showing, like a bubble graph of some popular languages. So it's showing Python, Java. The older languages like C are still super important. And so just as a simple breakdown, Java and JavaScript are really popular for web applications and anything you're doing on the web. C and C++ are more still like industrial stuff, like the code that's powering a jet plane or military stuff. That's not going to be Java generally. That's going to be C, C++. Video games are mostly still written in C or C++. So when you guys are playing, whatever it is. Fortnite, for example, is made by, let's see, Unreal Engine, is made over here in Cary, actually. So the Unreal Engine is built in C++. So I've actually been playing around with it myself, and it's a pretty cool development kit. So so here is a chart showing which languages companies are looking for right now. So at the moment, right, Java is still pretty heavily sought after. So these are all great skill sets. This doesn't mean you have to learn Java, but it's just showing you at this moment, actually this is about a year ago, which companies are still looking for, these types of programmers. So, we could talk about some salary information, for example. This is 2017. This is just showing you based on programming language. Okay, these are some kind of averages, right? So, Python developer, it's got you down for about 116,000. C++ 115. Again, this is going to vary based on the market. If you, for example, live near DC, Washington DC or San Francisco, New York, you're going to get paid a higher salary. But keep in mind, cost of living is going to be much higher, right? So if you go out to Silicon Valley, you want to live in San Jose, there's tons of jobs out there. However, you may be sharing an apartment with 3 other people, and it may be $4,000 a month. So you have to factor it all in, right? Another chart, for example, slightly different criteria. This is assuming a bit of experience in the language. It's still showing, Java, about $130,000. Objective-C, Python, those are still all over 100,000. So as you start thinking about your career, you guys at some point have to consider, salary is a part of the decision making. So it's definitely not everything. But yeah, these jobs are going to be around for, coding is going to be around for a very long time, right? So anyway, let's look at some different kind of fields you could be coding in, right? So virtual reality is really popular, and there's a lot more use of it each year. So maybe some of you have already played some virtual reality games, or if you have like a Samsung phone, they have like a wearable lens you can kind of attach it, and there's a lot of cool apps where you can see like the solar system, and you can kind of fly around between planets and see how different sized stars compare. It's pretty cool. Augmented reality is like virtual reality, except you actually see your own environment as well as the virtual stuff. So imagine, putting on some lens, you're walking down the street, maybe you're in Hong Kong or somewhere where there's lots of stores, you can't read the signage, but if you put on some augmented reality lens, well, maybe now you see things translated in English. Maybe in front of a door of a store, the door is lit up and it says, 20% off now if you walk in here. So these are kind of examples of augmented reality. There's also some companies working on trying to show heads-up displays on your car's windshield now. So that's, in the next couple of years, you're going to see apps built for your car that are trying to display navigation and other information, not just on your phone, because you don't want to be looking down, when you're trying to drive your car, but they're actually going to project it on the bottom of your windshield. So there's going to be, of course, some regulation there. We can't have the whole windshield blocked out with Pac-Man or something if you're trying to make a turn, but there's going to be some apps there. But that's an example of augmented reality, is where you're seeing your own environment, but you're seeing something in addition to that. Okay, artificial intelligence. This is a really exciting field, and there's tons of stuff happening here, right? So, we don't have time to get into how a neural network works, but in a nutshell, it's kind of a much more simplified artificial brain. You have these neural layers. They're just basically mathematical nodes that accept data. So you have input layers, kind of this middle processing layer. The more nodes you have, the more variables there are. But actually, you can train a neural network to learn how to recognize patterns. So if you have ever talked to your phone and asked Siri or Hey Google or Hey Alexa, any of this stuff, right? This is all using AI software. It has to first interpret what the sounds you're making into actual words, and your accent may be different here versus Brooklyn, New York, or somebody in Scotland. They're all speaking English, but they're all different dialects and accents. So they have to use AI pattern matching to figure out what this person just said, to figure out what to search, what to return. So anyway, so a lot of cool stuff happening there, and it's not just for pattern matching, but for decision making, right? So, but to make the decision, you first have to be able to recognize what you're looking at. So, and I can demo something after the slide deck. Actually, it's a game. So let's go on. Okay, quantum computing is super kind of leading edge right now, but as in the next 5 years or so, this is going to become really more mainstream. But basically, every computer you've seen here, these are just known as so-called classical computers that have a standard binary, like 1 and 0 bit architecture. Okay, so quantum computers are based on a totally different structure. So they use what's called a qubit, okay, which can do it. The bottom line is with quantum computers is they can do a lot of stuff in parallel, perform much faster sets of computations, and solve a lot more complex problems. So in the future, you're going to hear more and more about quantum computing. This is still really leading edge stuff, and there's a lot of companies trying to get into it. There's a company out of Canada called D-Wave at the moment. It's kind of one of the leaders. But anyway, that's a whole nother talk just on that. Blockchain is also another cool, another big trend right now in technology. You've probably heard of stuff like Bitcoin, but the foundation, the network that's backing these coins is actually pretty cool. So, but basically, think of it as a special type of network that is not hackable. So it's not only used for payments, but you could use a blockchain network for other things like verifying you're the author of a book, for example, or having an election of, it could verify that you voted, that was really you that voted for a certain thing. But anyway, it's also made for payments. From in the future, let's say there could be machines making payments to other machines. So imagine having some sort of a lawnmower or some sort of farming equipment that needs to be recharged or something. That equipment can make a payment to some recharging solar station nearby via a blockchain payment. So anyway, I know we're talking about a lot of different topics. I just want to kind of give you a 30,000-foot overview just to get you thinking about some possible things you may want to spend more time investigating when you have time. Okay, there's some really cool conferences to attend if you get into coding. I've been to the Game Developer Conference, for example, a few years. It's really awesome. There's a lot of cool stuff happening there, and if you get surrounded by other people that share the same interests you do, it's pretty cool. You can really network and meet some cool people and work on. You can collaborate on all this stuff. The cool thing about coding is you don't have to all be in the same office. You can work around the world in a single team. So, and again, there's some cool co-working areas popping up all over the world. Charlotte has currently WeWork, which is a cool place. So it's kind of like, think of it, instead of a standard office, it's kind of like more like a kind of a coffee shop where you go in, you have a laptop, and maybe there's some snacks, there's Wi-Fi, but there's some non-standard type work environments popping up. So for coding, you can take advantage of that. Anyway, I listed a few cool places. There's some awesome campuses also you could work at. Apple just built this amazing new campus out in California. It looks like some sort of a disk spaceship. It looks like an incredible place to work, but if you get into coding, you would have access to get to some of these cool places. We're running a little low on time, but yeah, just these are some areas that are big. From a Charlotte perspective, you get in touch with Hong Kong and New York because those are banking cities, and I've been to Hong Kong twice with work, and there's some cool places. So travel is definitely part of the career too, if you do decide to get into some coding. Okay. Also, there are a lot of people out there trying to do good things through code, right? There's a person, for example, that developed an app to listed here, this, let's see, okay, Maria Belding, the second one down, she developed this thing called means database. So if food kitchens, for example, if restaurants have extra food that they can't sell that day, they can route it to a food kitchen nearby using this means database. And I know UA is doing some cool stuff with canned food drives, and that's all awesome stuff. So that's kind of along that line, right? There's technology that helps you facilitate getting resources or food, to places that need it, right? So here's just a couple other entrepreneurs. Some of these are nonprofits, but some of these people, are making a lot of money. So Whitney Wolf is founder of Bumble. She currently has a net worth of 250 million. We won't go through all of these, but anyway, this is the cool thing. And I guess we're running a little bit low on time, but I can send the slide deck out later if you guys want to email it around. Lastly, you can also, building a custom machine is also a cool thing to get into. If you guys are building like really powerful workstations for gaming and stuff like that. So anyway, School of Science and Math has some summer programs if you guys are interested. I listed their website, and again, I can email the slide deck out later if you guys want to get the links and stuff. So, and one of my college professors used to say, it doesn't really matter where you start, as long as you start somewhere, right? So there's a ton of stuff happening in this field. So I just want to get you, an overview so you can at least think about it. So anyway, happy to take any questions that anybody has on anything. I know we're probably low on time, but otherwise, I know you guys have a coding activities coming up in just a minute.
We do.
Okay. Okay, cool. Yeah.
All right, guys, can everybody give them a round of applause? I know that this can be very overwhelming, and I know some people are still very confused. I still don't understand. It's a very big concept to wrap your mind around. It really is. Computer science is one of the most under-taught subjects in schools today. However, the demand is high for these fields. I want you guys, after I'm done talking and Mr. Zorn makes the announcement to begin coding, you're going to code for an hour. And I want you to just kind of reflect on the things that Mr. Owens said. Think about how can you code? Can you code in your job when you grow up? I promise you, whenever I went to school, I never thought in a million years I would be in the tech department. I went to school to be a high school English teacher, and here I am. Technology is going to be a big part of y'all's lives, and it's only going to get bigger. So for the next hour, after Mr. Zorn comes over and says, you may now begin your hour of code, have fun, play the games that your teachers tell you to play, think about how this could change your future and where our future takes us, like in the world. So you guys have fun. Thank you for listening and being so good in here, guys. I appreciate it.
On God. On God.